time to talk about a series we have talked about 2 previous times.
Mm-hmm.
Third time's the charm for this series to get it right.
I mean, you're not wrong. Or at least third time's the charm for us talking about it, because technically there's the graphic novels too. I have those. They're very good.
Well, you're right. Third time's the charm for us.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hope it is indeed the third time's the charm for us. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Season 9 of Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Al, and Lady.
Hello.
This is episode something. It's 363. And we are talking about Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Takes off what? Can't tell you that. That would be lewd.
Lewd?
Yeah, he's going to take something off.
Oh, I see. Got it.
What a joke.
Yep.
Really hit that one right on the head.
Man, I'm not good at jokes, you know that.
Oh, man. So yeah, we have talked about this series twice before. We talked about the film adaptation that is a Patreon exclusive. If you want to go listen to that, you got to sign up for the Patreon. Give us money and you can hear our thoughts about it.
Yay.
And then we also talked about the game adaptation when that was re-released.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to find what episode number that was. Will my search function work? Who knows? That's a great question. That's always the fun part.
I don't know the answer to this question.
That was episode 216.
Wow.
We talked about that game when it was re-released and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The moral of the story is both times we came away from a Scott Pilgrim piece of media and being like, I don't know about this.
It had not aged well.
In either front, let's say.
In either front, yeah. Like I've been a fan of Scott Pilgrim. Like I said, I have the graphic novels. I've got like a figure of Scott and everything, but like it did not age well, and I think that many people can acknowledge that.
Well, you'd hope so.
You would hope so, but I've also seen the reaction to this, so there's that.
True. So yeah, coming off of both of those, since we had watched the movie recently, we had played the game recently. When this was announced, I was kind of just like, eh. That's a thing. All right, whatever. Didn't really have any plans to watch it. It was just like, okay, that exists. Whatever. Anyways, moving on. So expectations were, I think we've both said, just underground, buried, 6 feet under.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, it's an animated version of the graphic novel. Cool. Like it's just gonna be a 1-for-1. Like I know what to expect. It hasn't aged well at the end.
Yeah.
Cool that they got the cast back, but even then, like we'll talk about that, I think. But I was excited, but not super excited.
Yeah, and then I think once it got released, you start hearing oh, they're doing something different with this, and that was
I didn't hear that at all.
I at least heard a little bit about it. It was just like, okay, that seems a little bit interesting, but still whatever. And then you watched it and were like, hey, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute.
Hey, this is good.
This might be good. And I was like,
this is good.
Huh? What?
I'm like, dude, you need to watch this.
And then I ended up watching as well, and then that's why we're going to reconvene and talk about it today.
Yeah, and you stayed up all night watching it. Not that you don't stay up all night all the time, but
it's true. Don't expose me like this. Come on. How dare you? So yeah, this was released on the Netflix on November the 17th of 2023. It is a Netflix exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
The one time where they will call something an anime and actually is right this time.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because this is made by a Japanese production company, so that makes it an anime. Congratulations.
Right.
Anyways, let's talk about the production of this, because it's probably weird considering, how this all came about and everything.
Right. Yes.
Here is the development of this. In 2018, Jared LaBeouf, that is not me, had reached out to Edgar Wright asking if he would be interested in working on a new Scott Pilgrim project. Then in early 2019, LaBeouf approached O'Malley about doing a Scott Pilgrim anime with Science Saru, the anime production company that would eventually end up doing it. O'Malley was uninterested at the time as he didn't want to do a straight retelling of the graphic novels and had no story or motivation. In 2020, O'Malley and Grabinski pitched a story which starts similarly to as the same story, but deviates at the fight with Patel. UCP, I guess that's Universal, I would assume, and Netflix greenlit the idea. In January 2022, it was reported that Netflix and Universal Content Productions, hey, there you go, were developing an anime series based on the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels by Brian Lee O'Malley. At the time, Netflix had ordered several other anime and animated productions based on other properties. O'Malley was announced as showrunner, writer, and executive producer alongside Ben David Grabinski, with animator Abdul Gangora directing. Edgar Wright and Michael Bacall, who directed and wrote the 2010 live-action film adaptation Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, were also involved with the anime and serve as executive producers. The animation production is provided by Science Saru. In March 2023, it was announced that this series had officially been greenlit, with Wright noting that it expanded the Scott Pilgrim universe. And then this is the casting. You have something to say? Hello.
I was gonna say March 2023 is when it was greenlit. Like, seems like a really quick turnaround.
Well, it wouldn't be anime if there was not crunch involved.
Okay, you know what? You're right. You're right.
Oh, boy.
I do appreciate there's a character in this called Edgar Wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Anyway, continue.
Casting. On March 30th, 2023, Netflix released a cast announcement video confirming that the cast of the 2010 film would reprise their roles. I guess it probably wasn't greenlit in March. It was probably just like, hey, this is when we're like officially showing it off for the first time type deal.
More like an official announcement.
Yeah. Wright had assembled the actors for the film and helped convince them all to return for the anime. He reflected that casting and working on the film was one of the proudest and most enjoyable achievements of his career. They had previously reunited for 10th anniversary events, with the team reportedly excited to have another project in the Scott Pilgrim universe to create. Shota and Keita Saito, the actors who portrayed the Katayanagi twins in non-speaking roles in the film, were not mentioned in the cast announcement. It was subsequently announced that Julian Chihi would voice both twins. The production confirmed that further cast members will be announced later. This is about the writing. It's very brief. When O'Malley and Grabinski began writing the series, they wanted to capture the spirit of the comics in the movie, but still update things in the near 2 decades since the comics' original publication.
Smart.
Some of these changes include changing Ramona's job from a delivery girl for Amazon to delivering DVDs for Netflix, and also expanding on the backstories of the evil X's. And then they did a bunch of music for this.
Anamanaguchi came back.
They got Anamanaguchi back for it, which is smart.
Yep, very smart.
And all that.
They literally used the like mini boss theme from the game in one of the episodes. So it was really good.
Yeah. And then here's how it reviewed. It has a 96% on the Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating of an 8.2 out of 10. Metacritic has it as an 82 out of 100. This person praised the show, saying it shatters expectations and cleverly re-examines its entire story with a profound twist without sacrificing any pieces of its identity.
Wow.
This person says they expressed dissatisfaction with the work, specifically targeting its narrative and humor, saying it was bland storylines and lackluster jokes.
Wow.
So there's, you gotta get both sides of the argument there. Real centrism here.
Yeah. Also interesting that the music didn't mention that there are new songs by Sex Bomb. I don't know why they didn't mention that.
Too difficult.
I guess.
And then also, with an interview with Rolling Stone, Brian Lee O'Malley said of the series future that there are no current plans for a second season, stating, "I never say never, but right now it seems like it would take about 50 different miracles simultaneously for another season to happen, so we'll see." It doesn't need a second season.
It doesn't need a second season. Where would they even go from here?
Home. Anyways, this is an anime.
It is. Which we do have to talk about this voice acting.
Yes.
It is mostly very good.
Yes.
Um, a lot of these actors are able to very like they're able to translate their characters very well.
Mm-hmm.
From live action to the animated version, which was great. I was excited. There's one exception.
There is indeed one exception,
There's one exception.
which helps that this character is basically kind of not seen throughout most of the series. So
Yeah, yeah, it does help. He's a good actor, so I don't know what happened here, but he apparently not everybody's meant for voice acting. We'll
yeah,
just put it that way.
Michael Cera just sounds old and kind of just bored.
He sounds bored.
He's just reading lines off a script.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Like I was surprised because he really is a good actor, so I was kind of not expecting that. But like when you compare it to like I don't know, like Kieran Culkin,
Mm-hmm.
who just like completely knocks it out of the park as Wallace. Like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that Brie Larson didn't do the singing.
Yeah, she doesn't do the singing. I think in the original series either.
Yeah, she did. She did the singing in the movie, but
Nah,
only that
okay.
one song, and then they released the metric version of it on the soundtrack. People were real upset about her version not being released.
um, but yeah, I mean, voice acting and acting in general are two very
They're very
different
different.
disciplines. So it isn't like the most surprising thing that an actor would be not great at one or the other. So
But it's wild that everybody else is so much better at it.
yeah.
Like everybody else did a really good job. Like was not expecting Jason Schwartzman to be as good at voice acting as he is.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
And also, with this being anime, they're able to sneak in like cameos and stuff like that in there. So like Weird Al's in this
Yeah,
as a documentary announcer. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are also in this very briefly because, of course,
of course.
can't have an Edgar Wright production without them.
You cannot.
But that was
Yeah,
a fun
those are
little
good.
goof. Um, but yeah, like you said, I think most of the voice acting in this is very good, except Michael Cera just kind of shows up in there. There's also a full-on Japanese dub as well. If you are into that, you want to go the full anime route, that is also there for you.
That's wild. I mean, I guess it's an anime, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
it's just it just seeing it to me, I'm like, huh, right. Yes, this makes sense.
But yeah, that first episode obviously is the one that is basically the most adaptation-y
Yeah,
because
it's very similar.
98% of it is basically just the opening of Scott Pilgrim.
Hmm.
And
We
then
get a difference in the Netflix change, and we
mhm,
get the party tidbit is different. We
yeah.
no longer have the Pac-Man and Puck-Man
No, instead
tidbit
he's talking about two different Sonic the Hedgehog animations.
from the 90s. One really likes chili dogs.
He's like, "You want to talk about this American version and then like Sonic X or something?"
But yeah, otherwise it's basically just like one for one. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is what I was expecting.
And then Scott loses at the end of the episode and you're like, "Huh?
Yeah,
Excuse me?"
and then it goes to places where you're not expecting because Scott Pilgrim dies.
Yeah, we're like, "Yeah, let's
I
go.
was like, wait, what?
The evil is defeated."
Scott's dead. So then I was like, well, I don't know what to expect now.
Mhm.
Scott died.
And then this essentially just becomes the Ramona show, which I think is a much better utilization of the franchise than what it had been previously.
I agree. I mean, it really gives her a chance to like shine and have her own agency, but also to like reconcile some of the problems that she's had with her exes, and we learn more about who they are. And um it 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 really does show some growth here, I
Mhm.
think. Um but it made Ramona less of just like I'm the prize to be won type character.
It makes her less of the manic pixie dream girl.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. She's not that anymore.
And I think as well, it also like is able to showcase the other like non like X characters as well, like all the other side characters as well in different lights compared to what they had been previously, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, like I mentioned Wallace. Like we get some really good stuff with Wallace. And like Knives, holy Knives' arc is good.
Mm-hmm.
Good for her. Knives gets a good arc.
Yeah.
We get some of the background with Kim, which like yeah, we got some of that before, and like it's in the graphic novel, but like seeing it here was good. Um, I'm trying to think of who else. Like I think Julie even gets more character development other
Yeah.
than just like saying bad words.
Yeah.
So like everybody really gets room to breathe.
Everyone gets elevated in a way that they wouldn't have been previously.
Correct. And it's great.
Which is really good.
All it took was Scott dying.
I think the good thing about this series is that, you know, it realizes in, what did they say, like it's been like 20 years or something since the graphic novel came out, and 13 years since the movie adaptation and everything, is that like Scott's a
Yeah. Scott
he
sucks. He's the villain.
And this series finally kind of realizes like, oh, he is kind of a piece of and the bad guy in this kind of series. So what if we deal with that?
That was the point. And like I think the point was missed a lot.
Yeah, because like, you know, the mid 2000s and early 2010s nerd culture
right
could not rectify with something like that. It was just like, ooh, nerd stuff on the screen. That's just like me.
Well, and even like, you know, something like shoot, what's the name of that movie? Um oh God. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Um Manic Pixie Dream Girl, Summer.
500 Days of Summer.
Thank you. Thank you. Um like that one is completely misinterpreted, and it's like around the same time period.
Yeah, no, I think that was like late 2000s.
So people like really were identifying with like the dude pro tag when that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to realize he's kind of a scummy guy. And Scott was a scummy guy.
This was the era of, oh, it's gonna be the nice guy. Can't be one of these jerks, man. Type deal. So yeah, I think society as a whole just wasn't adequately prepared to come to that realization as a whole. Like, I mean, obviously there's probably people who very clearly were like, oh, okay, this is definitely what this is doing. But the greater whole of this would have been like, no, man, you know, he's real cool and things. Like, bro.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's a reason why there's like what is it? Like Nega Scott at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to realize that Scott's the villain too. He's one of the evil X's almost. But this does a better job of explaining that to the audience a little bit in a way that can't really be missed.
And I think as well it does a better job of like making Scott come to that realization and realize he has to work at being a better person.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing is that Scott actually has to like reconcile his behavior and figure out like how do I actually not do these garbage
how do I not things up?
Yeah. Which, you know, you kind of have to do. Like, again, one of the whole things was like, is he going to become one of the evil X's? And like, if he continued to things up, then yeah, he absolutely was going to be. And he kind of does at one point in this.
Yeah, an alternate dimension version of him basically does.
Yeah.
Or I guess a future version of him, really. But
a future version of him, yeah. Time travel. But yeah, he really does. And so like Scott has to figure out like how do I not become that? How do I do better?
Yeah.
Which is good. And
it's
also,
really good,
you know, he acknowledges like, hey, society says that dating a high schooler is bad, and I should have realized that, and I shouldn't have done that.
Yep.
I was like, oh, good. Bravo.
And
The bar was underground, and you got over that one little bar there, buddy.
I think as well it helps that like this series doesn't make Knives just like vindictive in a way of like towards
Mm.
Ramona because of this whole all the shenanigans. Like Scott dies and she's kind of like, I'm sad for a little bit, but I gotta move on and get to work on this other stuff. I'm gonna
Well,
join
and
this. I'm gonna
she
join the band and everything, and I'm gonna work on all this stuff.
right, like she's sad, but then she also like realizes like, oh, I have a real talent for music.
Mm-hmm.
And like they explore that a bit, which is great. And it she doesn't go down that route of like, well, I'm gonna blame this woman type thing.
Which is good.
Yeah, and they don't make any like, fat jokes, which is good.
And they don't go with that weird alternate ending of the movie where Scott gets with Knives again. Very bad.
Yeah, no, she just, learns bass and keyboard.
Yeah, and she's like, I could just picked it up in a couple hours. It's fine. And they're like, oh my god.
You're like a prodigy when it
Oh
comes
my
to this.
god.
And then she starts writing music. It's great.
Yeah. And then like by the end of the show, she's in the band fully with like everyone, and like there's no
Hmm.
weird drama or anything. It's just like, oh yeah, we're a better band now. Sick.
Yeah, like it's great.
It's really good.
I was so glad to see her get a better arc.
Mm-hmm.
She deserved it. Knives is not a bad character. Knives just had
A bad situation.
a bad situation and um, you know, early 2000s writing.
Yeah.
Now she's, living her best life here.
Yeah. Not
Proud of
wrong.
her. Proud of her.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna go like episode by episode on this, but like I just want to hit some of like the cool, the fun moments I really enjoyed in this.
Mhm.
I really love in the second episode when Envy crashes the funeral and then
It's
sings
so
"In the Arms of
funny.
an Angel."
It's so funny.
So funny.
I was losing it laughing. It's so good.
And everyone's just going wild for her and forgetting why they're actually at this funeral.
Right, right. Which, I mean, it's also an interesting twist here that they had Matthew Patel like take over the League of Evil
Yeah, like
Exes.
Gideon has a fall from grace and everything. Like he gets beat as well in the second episode. So like
Mm-hmm.
you're just
And it's
like
like,
you get to see like his like downfall and then his rise back up, which is interesting. Like he has way more of a character arc in this than he does in the other stuff because it's just like, oh, he's just the last boss, whatever.
yeah. Yeah, and then this one he's hanging off the side of a roof and has to sign over like his
Yeah.
entire being, basically everything but his name. But even then, he gives up his name. Um, but it gives him room to like grow a bit too. But then you basically have like a rebellion of the evil X's here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just wild. That was a fun change. But yeah, by far the best part of episode 2 was Envy crashing the funeral.
God,
By
I laughed
far.
so much when that happened.
I had to pause when I realized what she was singing. Because it took me a second. I was like, wait a second, I know this. And then she got to it. I was like, oh my God. Just thinking about like sad puppies right now. It's so funny.
I love that they basically include the live action adaptation into this as just like a a thing that young Neil is just he wrote a film.
Right, right. Yeah. The script for the film was something that young Neil, quote unquote, wrote.
And it's like the regular story.
Yeah, it's just the movie that everybody knows.
Mm-hmm. Which is a fun little thing.
It's a nice nod.
I do like as well they give Roxy more characterization considering in the other stuff she's just like lesbian. Anyways.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Well, and like they make it something where like they acknowledge that Ramona saying like, "Oh, it's just a phase and it didn't mean anything and everything," is really and was very hurtful.
Yeah.
And so like they have to come to terms with their relationship and what it actually was, and Ramona really does try and apologize for how that all went down, which was good.
Yeah.
Um, and then Roxy and Kim decide they're gonna make out, and then they
They're
decide
like,
that
nah, this ain't
nah,
not
not
feeling
it,
it.
not it. Um, but yeah, it was good to see that situation of like them reconcile and it be more than just like I'm what do they call it? The sexy phase, I think is what they call it in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like ugh. So, you know.
It's definitely like I think this in general like is a good showcase of how much more empathetic this series is compared to the
Yeah.
other adaptations or just the original source material in general.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. It was a much better way to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it shows like character growth for Ramona, which we didn't really get a whole lot of in the original series or the movie.
Yeah. Because I guess for
Yep.
clarification, she's going after like all the her exes because she thinks Scott's alive and is
Mm.
trying to figure out how like if one of them has something to do with it. So she has to like figure out who's behind this whole thing. That's kind of like the impetus of the series as it moves forward from episode 1.
Yeah, she sees that there's like a vegan portal that takes Scott right before he dies, and also like she hears his voice in the subspace
Mm-hmm.
in her head.
I
Um,
oh go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying
Oh. Um.
um
I really love episode 4 because they really lead into Lucas Lee being a skater and just pull 2 songs from the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack. And it's very good. Like when that episode starts,
United States of whatever.
when that first episode starts and he's skating around to the United States of whatever, I was like, holy shit, I haven't heard this song in forever, but also this song kicks. This is amazing. This is the perfect song choice for this.
So good.
Oh, I was so happy. And then like later on when he's like fighting the like dudes in the studio, it's playing
The paparazzi.
the paparazzi. It's playing Police Truck by the Dead Kennedys as well. I was like,
Yep.
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, they leaned hard into that. And it was really good.
God, so good.
But they also expand on his character. Like he's struggling as an actor because of his controversies, I guess is
His
a good way to put
controversies
it.
and lack of wanting to act.
Yeah, there's that too.
I think Chris Evans also does a really good job in like his voice
Oh,
acting
yeah.
role.
100%.
He really like nails this character in ways that like it feels like it really shouldn't work, but it just works so well.
It works so well. So good.
So good.
I also like that Wallace just ends up getting cast as himself.
He's like, this guy sucks. I can do this way better. I'm me.
And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And he's like the not gay version of Wallace and
Yeah.
all that. And he's like, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna do it.
Which leads to Lucas Lee getting fired from the movie role because he was playing Scott, and then they bring Todd Ingram in, the other evil ex.
Yeah, and Envy is playing Ramona.
Yeah, and then Wallace just starts seducing Todd all throughout the next episode.
They're gonna run lines in his trailer.
Oh man.
The stamina on those two with the running the lines. My God.
God.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I didn't expect that at all.
I love
It was
that.
a good twist.
I love that he gets a Wallace tattoo on his like on
His belly.
his belly, and then like later there's like at the end of the series when they're having like the big boss fight, you could still see the Wallace tattoo at one point.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, that's really good.
Even though Wallace is like, dude, this was like a set fling. Like, yikes.
No.
I'm not here for that. And then he becomes not a vegan.
He breaks the vegan code.
He eats many things that are not vegan. Also, Envy is super mad because her boyfriend got stolen. Oh, and Ramona just decides she's going to be Envy's stunt double.
Yeah, because that's the only way she's able to like. She needs to talk to
She
Todd
needs to be
about
upset,
things.
Yeah.
And that's the only way she was able to like actually like find a way to get like access to him. So that's why she's there. And then realizes, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this stunt double stuff.
Yeah. I think my favorite thing about the whole seduction thing is that, like, how it starts is that Envy and Todd can't get their hands off each other and they just keep making out and everything during these scenes. And they're like, what if we just move things around and we do this? And, Wallace is closer to Todd than Envy, and then it ends up being like seduction and they end up making out. And it's like, okay, yeah,
It's wild.
completely wild. It's really funny.
Oh man. We gotta talk about Bum Gideon,
Yeah. The Gordon Goose
who
is his name, right?
yeah, he's now crashing at Julie's place because they had history together, and that's basically how he ends up there.
They went to school together. He's also watching anime.
He's also watching anime, and Lucas shows up, and they just like party.
Yeah, they do some paintball stuff
crash
together.
And just destroy her house.
Yep.
But they're just having such a good time.
They're just such bros in this part. It's great.
It's so good.
Two guys down on the luck, hanging out.
And then we learn about the Scott Pilgrim film, which got canceled, is now being turned into a musical.
Mm-hmm.
It's also good.
Which that was written by Steven and Knives. They're
Yes.
the ones who pitched that.
Yes.
It's good for them.
Then basically this is kind of where you figure out like everything that's actually happened. Where like, the robot the twins made is vegan. It can make the portal. Young Neil didn't write that screenplay because there's information that was like 14 years in the future, and then Scott just shows up, like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
Hey, I'm alive."
Which
Also, by the way, I kidnapped myself. Sorry.
yeah, whoops. The robot shows up in a lot of scenes, and so I kept thinking something was going on with the robot
Mm-hmm.
because it just kept showing up, and I'm like, okay, there's something with this damn robot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scott's here. He's like, hi.
Also, the penultimate episode is a Too Fast, Too Furious reference with the title of it.
It sure is. Two Scott, two Pilgrim.
Oh man. But yeah, you learn how Scott got pulled into the future by himself, and basically he was himself wanted him to like not get with Ramona,
Right.
because
They're separated in the
they're
future.
separated. And he's having a bad time. And he had to look through the virtual boy to see all this stuff and everything. Just very sad, sad boy hours.
They're living with Wallace, which Scott's like, wow, we have such a nice house. He's like, no, this is Wallace's house. He's married to a guy from Nintendo.
And Scott's like, what?
What? Like Wallace is living that like my uncle lives at Nintendo life.
Mm-hmm.
Lives at Nintendo, works at Nintendo.
Also lives at Nintendo.
It also lives at Nintendo, and everyone's like, wow, you look really good with your like gray hair, man. He's like, oh, I know. I look really good.
So yeah, like the whole thing is like old Scott is blaming Ramona for them getting separated, and then eventually regular Scott goes and finds older Ramona, and she's like, no, he's just a idiot, and we had a little fight, and then he blew it out of proportion, and now this is what it's come to.
He ran away.
He ran away, and Scott's like, oh, that seems real stupid.
That's real dumb.
Why would you do that?
We also find that the young Neil like screenplay was written by old Ramona.
Mm-hmm. And she's able to like bring Scott back to the present time, and she stays there for a while to take a photo with normal or regular Ramona. It's funny. Yeah, this is like where you see like Scott be like, hey, Knives, I kind of did some dumb stuff and shouldn't have been dating you and all that stuff, and didn't break it off.
You
when
deserve better.
I got with Ramona. Sorry about that. My bad.
Like it was really refreshing to see Scott like actually acknowledge like I did some really bad things, and like I'm sorry for that. You deserve better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all right. Scott's learning. Good for him. Well, this version of Scott's learning. Then they want to smooch.
They want to smooch and they can't because there's a force field. And they're like, well, that's weird. Anyways, let's go to this musical and figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Which they go to the musical, and I love it every time an ex shows up, Scott's like, I want to fight you. And they're like, no, I don't really want to fight, dude. I don't have anything to do with this. It's fine. Whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, we're good.
He's like, all right. Do you want to fight? No. You want to fight? No.
I love Todd just getting like a disgusting amount of butter on his popcorn. He's like, keep going, keep going, keep going.
And
Yeah,
then like
no,
Scott just
keep going,
goes up
keep
and
going.
knocks it out of his hand. He's like, oh man, I gotta
Oh
get another one of
man,
these.
his fall for veganism is hysterical.
It's really good. Also, he sees Wallace again and breaks down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. He does. Poor guy.
But
Wallace just wrecked this man.
he really has. But yeah, they go to the musical and everything is fine. Gideon and Julie are going to like have some plan to get back everything, to get revenge on Matthew. But then like
They're explosives.
they're gonna get sucked into a portal. They get to older Scott, who is just old Ryu,
Yeah, basically just old Ryu.
who got buff because he got real sad that Ramona left him and just did training for 10 years.
Yep. And he did his training arc.
And he really does not want Scott to get with Ramona because then he'll be sad in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So he put nano machines in him.
Yep, with the coffee or tea or
Nano
something he
machines,
gave him.
son.
I forgot what he gave him, but anyway, he gave him nano machines.
But I do like how this is like it's very tropey, but like it's everyone comes together to fight off the big bad villain who is Scott Pilgrim.
With Scott Pilgrim.
But you get like the X's coming together to help him and everything, and they all try and do their part. This is where, like you said, they played the song from the game, which was very that was a very good touch.
It was a very good touch.
But yeah, the whole thing is Scott has to fight against this older version of him, being like, and have to prove to himself, I guess, and his older self, like, hey, this is not the way we should be doing things. What are you doing?
Dude, we suck right now.
Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I'm not the villain. What do you mean?
And like,
I'm the good guy here.
Like, Ramona had no problem with him, really. Like, she's still in love with him. It's just he was being a baby, and
then he went for 10 years to go train, and she's like, you didn't call or text or send me anything for 10 years. He's like,
and she
you still want to get together? And he's like, no!
No!
It's been 10 years!
Ramona does also acknowledge, like, I have a habit of running away from things that I care about, and I have to stop doing that. And, like, she does say, you know, that was not a healthy mechanism for me to go about this, but, like, you ran away for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You became this. This is a problem. So, like, you know, we love it when people are self-aware and realize the things that they're doing are hurtful. Except for, you know, even older Scott, who is not doing that.
No. Also, I forgot to mention that, like, in the future, the twins are hanging out. They're, like, in a band with Scott, which is, like...
Yeah.
It's... They're named, like... I forget... Are they named, like, Pop and Twinbee or something? They're named after a game.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very funny. But, like, when he has to... Like, when regular timeline Scott, like, is about ready to fight the twins, like, no, we've learned from the future that, like, we're bros with you then, so, like, we have no problem with you anymore, so it's cool.
Yeah. It's really good.
And they're like, oh, okay. So I thought that was very funny. But yeah, Ramona learns this stuff about herself, and then older Ramona shows up, and they do the fusion dance and turn into supersonic Ramona to make old Scott go back to his timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And then regular Ramona can kiss Scott now, and everyone's happy.
Yay! Yay! The evil has been defeated.
Evil's been defeated, except there's still a bomb happening.
Right. And
it's very funny, like, Gideon and Julie are like, we're gonna do this, and Matthew's like, you want to take care of the business again? Because this stuff sucks, dude.
This sucks. I just want to do the musical. That's all I want is to do the musical.
And they're like, oh, yeah, cool. We will definitely take this back. All right, sick.
Neat.
And then you get a little, like, a little recap of what everyone else is doing afterwards.
Lucas working as a barista is
very
so
funny.
It's so funny. I love how Stacy's like crouched down. It's like, yeah, he really sucks. And like, all this is happening, but like, I get to look at him all day. So
I do like as well that he's like impressed with Kim's like nonchalant attitude.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, whatever. Interesting. Todd's getting his vegan powers back thanks to Roxy.
Yep.
The twins are still doing robotics because, of course.
Of course they are.
Wallace goes to Paris with his money and finds a new boy.
Right, yeah.
Which is very good. Like we said, Knives joins Sex Bomb permanently. And Ramona does stunt work for realsies.
Because she realized she was good at it.
Yeah. And everyone's happy.
Yay!
Also,
this was legitimately so good.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say? Also,
I would say there's a mid-credit scene as well where like they show Gideon and Julie wanting to plot against Scott and Ramona again.
Oops.
Because we are evil. Ha 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 ha.
Ah.
But yeah, like I really came out of this like just super enjoying it. Like it blew my expectations out of the water because, like we said, the expectations were just underground and buried because it just, man, the previous iterations of this were just not. They hadn't aged well. I wouldn't say they're not good, but they just have not aged well in, this landscape. This is the perfect way to look at this series through a 2023 lens, essentially, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I was glad to see like the characters get to like stretch their legs a little bit and grow, and we got rid of a lot of the like really problematic stuff, which is great. And the stuff that is problematic that we didn't get rid of, like they acknowledge, oh hey, this is problematic. Wow. Yeah, it was really fun. Like I liked getting to learn a lot more about the exes. I like to see a lot of the dynamics that like we wouldn't have normally seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the Todd Wallace relationship is legitimately hilarious. Just because of the way that like you would not expect Todd to cling on to Wallace like that. And Wallace is just like, dude, like that's nothing, man. I don't know what you're talking about. But then like, young Neil's like, it's my sleep paralysis demons. Like, wait, what? You but like we barely knew anything about him in the original one, and like now we're learning, hey, he's interested in being a writer, and he ends up being a writer, and that became a book that became the screenplay. It was fun. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Who knew that what it took was everybody thinking that Scott Pilgrim died for the series to be much, much better?
They had to make him die and also make him realize he is the villain.
Right. Yeah. Like that's all it took. And then they all fight and they all win and there's a happy ending.
That's all you gotta do.
Yeah. So good. I'm really glad that you watched it after I like yelled a lot about how good it was.
I do trust the owl opinion, so
I definitely yelled at you like, you need to watch this. This is so good.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So this is the definitive Scott Pilgrim experience.
I think so. That's all I'm going to tell anyone.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
So there you go.
We did it.
Third time was indeed the charm.
Yay!
But yeah, that is Scott Pilgrim takes off. He's gone. See you
Goodbye.
later. Farewell. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts, like Jared Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love Life Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky at seasonalanimecheckup.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast, and a whole wealth of bonus episodes as well, like that Scott Pilgrim movie episode we did. You can listen to that.
You can listen to that.
Next week, it's time to take a look into the future.
Wow, there's a lot of future talk in December.
There is.
Future Scott. Future Zura.
It is time for our annual next year preview episode where we'll take a look at what's coming out in 2024 and beyond. Thankfully, the Game Awards have already happened as you're hearing this, so we'll have all those announcements to talk about as well.
That usually doesn't happen, does it?
No, so we got lucky this year. I love that. Love when that happens. Love to see it.
You love to see it. So thanks, Jeff Keighley.
Thanks, Geoff.
Geoff.
So we'll talk about 2024 releases and video games and anime and whatever else tickles her fancy.